Picture this. An employee is sitting at their desk, just staring at a totally vague email, and they turn to a coworker and complain, "My manager never gives me clear direction. It's like I'm supposed to be a mind reader." But then, literally just down the hall, that exact same manager is rubbing their temples, staring at a missed deadline, and complaining to another manager, "My employee never tells me what they need. They just wait until the absolute last minute to tell me they're stuck."
Right? It's the ultimate workplace blame game. The frustrated employee is saying, "My manager never gives me clear direction," while the equally stressed manager is saying, "My employee never tells me what they need." And the crazy part is, they are both utterly convinced that the other person is the core problem. The employee feels totally neglected, maybe even micromanaged, while the manager feels completely blindsided. So they just sit there, stuck in this infinite loop, waiting for the other person to magically change.
But what if we completely flip this dynamic? Seriously, what if working effectively with your manager is actually a shared responsibility? The truth is, your relationship with your manager is hands down the single most important factor in your day-to-day job satisfaction. Not to mention your long-term career growth. You simply cannot afford to sit around waiting to be managed perfectly. We have to actively turn this relationship into an empowered partnership.
Okay, so how do we do that? Let's dive into our first key idea. You have to understand what actually matters to your manager. It's so easy to forget that managers are just regular people, right? They've got their own intense pressures, specific goals, and let's face it, their own bosses they have to answer to. They're juggling budgets, dealing with shifting priorities from the top down, and trying to keep the whole team on track. Plus, if you don't know their preferred ways of working, like do they love quick text updates, or are they a detailed weekly email kind of person, you are going to constantly create friction without even realizing it.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine you get asked to look into some data. Now, you could easily go heads down and spend 10 hours preparing this beautifully formatted, comprehensive analysis, but what if your manager just needed a really rough estimate to make a quick yes or no decision in a meeting 5 minutes from now? See, by just taking a second to ask what decision actually needs to be made before you start, you align completely with their immediate pressures. You avoid wasting your own time, and honestly, you instantly become a much more valuable partner. That brings us perfectly to our second idea, finding your common purpose. Look, in any job, you and your manager are going to disagree sometimes on how to get something done. That's totally normal. But instead of banging your heads together arguing over the specific how, you need to zoom way out. Focus on the shared outcome. Because at the end of the day, both of you are trying to serve the exact same end goal, whether that's helping a client, launching a new product, or just fixing a broken process.
Which leads me to this perspective shift, and I absolutely love this. You and your manager revolve around your common purpose, but you don't revolve around your manager. Really let that sink in for a second. This whole dynamic, it's about serving the overarching work, not catering to someone's ego. You are not just some subservient assistant blindly taking orders. You're a partner. You bring your unique skills to the table, they bring their resources and direction, and together, you both orbit around the results you want to achieve.
Now here's idea number 3, and it's a big one, because newsflash, people are terrible mind readers. That is exactly why you have to align expectations frequently. What you think is a burning top-tier priority might actually be dead last on your manager's list. So for any major piece of work, you've got to explicitly agree on the scope, the level of quality they actually need, the hard deadlines, how it affects your other projects, and ultimately, who has the final say. Taking just a few minutes up front to clarify all these expectations, it literally prevents the total disaster of working incredibly hard in the completely wrong direction. Think about it. If you take on a new project, but your plate is already full, you need to go to your manager and say, "Hey, I can absolutely take this on, but it means project X is going to be delayed until next week. Are we aligned on that?" If you skip that step, you're just setting yourself up to fail at both things, and your manager is going to be frustrated because they just assumed you could magically handle it all.
And this naturally leads right into idea number 4, keep your manager informed. Basically, no surprises. Imagine that gut-wrenching scenario where a project is slipping. You know you're not going to hit the deadline. The absolute worst thing you can do is bury your head in the sand, hope for a miracle, and then drop a bomb on your manager at the 11th hour. No way! Instead, you tell them early, explain what the bottleneck is, and, this is crucial, you bring a couple of potential solutions or options with you. Doing that builds massive trust because it shows you're proactively managing the problem.
All right, our fifth and final idea ties this whole thing together. Take responsibility for the relationship. Do not just sit back and expect your manager to do 100% of the relationship management. An empowered employee takes the wheel. If your manager hasn't scheduled a one-on-one in a while, you schedule it.
If they aren't giving you feedback, and let's be real, a lot of managers are honestly terrible at giving feedback, you have to actively ask for it. Ask something simple like, what is one thing I could do differently next time? You clarify those priorities frequently, and when issues pop up, you raise them constructively instead of just venting at the water cooler.
Let's go back to those two characters from the beginning and look at the massive return on investment when we stop pointing fingers and start actually collaborating. Our previously frustrated employee is now proactively seeking alignment and communicating early. And because of that, the manager doesn't feel blindsided anymore. They can actually step up, provide clear, timely support, and give the employee autonomy. The manager doesn't feel the need to micromanage because the employee is reliable. All that old friction just dissolves into a really highly productive partnership.
As you can see, this all builds into an unbreakable bridge. It's a sequence of actionable steps. You start with that foundational effort to genuinely understand what matters to them. Then, you constantly align on your shared purpose and those expectations. From there, you communicate proactively, making sure there are no surprises, especially not bad ones. And doing all of this, it leads straight to mutual trust. And trust me, when your manager trusts you, that's when you get the best projects, the most flexibility, and incredible support for your own career growth.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Take a hard look at your own workplace dynamics and any friction you might be feeling right now. Instead of just wishing you had the absolute perfect boss, ask yourself, what could you do differently this week to make it easier for your manager to work with you? Try putting just one of these ideas into practice and watch how fast your relationship and honestly, your entire daily work life starts to transform.